Comics are built on words and pictures working together, but every so often a story comes along that reminds you just how much can be said without a single line of dialogue. G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue 21, written and drawn by Larry Hama, is one of the boldest examples of that idea ever put to print. A full issue told entirely in silence, built purely through action, body language, and visual clarity. Join me in this one-shot, G.I. Joe Silent Interlude. But before we go any further, please remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on daily shorts and longer videos just like this one. Thanks for your time, and let's get into the story. This issue opens with immediate purpose. Scarlet is being delivered to a Cobra stronghold by Storm Shadow, bound and hooded. But right away, the book makes something clear. Even as a prisoner, Scarlet is not passive. She fights back, bites Storm Shadow, struggles every step of the way. This isn't someone waiting to be rescued. This is someone already planning her way out. Inside the castle, she's chained in a cellar, accessed only through a hole in the ceiling. And the moment she's alone, she gets to work. She tests her restraints. She uses a hairpin to pick the lock. At the same time, Snake Eyes enters the story from above, parachuting onto the roof of the castle. There's no explanation of the plan, no narrative walking you through the mission. You understand it purely through movement. Snake Eyes disables guards, avoids unnecessary fights, and moves through the space with total control. You're not told he's skilled, you see it. But he isn't a perfect warrior, and accidentally gives himself away, alerting Destro, only to use other skills he has to outsmart the Cobra troops. But what's important is that these two trends run parallel. Scarlet doesn't wait for Snake Eyes to reach her. When Storm Shadow returns to the cell, she attacks him with her chains, pulls him down into the darkness, and seals the hatch behind them. Even when overpowered, she creates opportunity. She buys time. Scarlet fights off Cobra troopers and eventually hijacks a claw glider, piloting it herself up to the roof. By the time Snake Eyes reaches the cellar, she's already gone. Not because he failed, but because Scarlet succeeded. And then Snake Eyes runs into Storm Shadow again. The confrontation between them is fast and precise. You don't need a single word to understand there's history here. The way Snake Eyes seems to anticipate Storm Shadow's movements, reading him almost before he acts, tells you everything you need to know. As Snake Eyes finally reaches the rooftop, he reunites with Scarlet. But the moment doesn't last. Storm Shadow recovers, and with the last of his strength, hurls his katana towards Snake Eyes. Scarlet reacts instantly, stepping into its path to protect her teammate. But Snake Eyes is faster. In one final display of skill and control, he stops the blade before it can reach her. And as Scarlet and Snake Eyes escape together, there's one last detail that quietly reframes the entire issue: the matching tattoos on Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. It's a silent reveal, a final image that hints at a much larger story waiting beyond this one issue. On the surface, Silent Interlude is a rescue mission, but thematically it's about competence, trust, and communication without words. Snake Eyes and Scarlet are never framed as hero and hostage. They're equals, working independently but in sync. You see it in the ways Scarlet engineers her own escape, and in how Snake Eyes adjusts when he realizes she's already moved on. They adapt, react, and make decisions without needing to explain themselves. And that unspoken trust is the emotional backbone of the issue. Scarlet's role is especially important here. She isn't defined by being captured, she's defined by how she responds to it. Her intelligence, resistance, and agency are just as crucial to the mission's success as Snake Eyes' skill and discipline. And the silence matters. By removing the dialogue entirely, Larry Hama forces the reader to engage differently. You're not told who these characters are. You learn it through posture, timing, restraint, and choice. Every action becomes character. This isn't a loud story about heroism, it's a quiet one about professionalism and trust under pressure. And because there's no dialogue, the art isn't just supporting the story, it is the story. Hama's layouts are incredibly clear. You always know where you are, who has control of the situation, and when that control shifts. Action flows cleanly from panel to panel, and nothing feels confusing or rushed. Facial expressions are minimal, but body language does the heavy lifting. All of it's communicated visually intentionally without exaggeration. Surprises land because of timing, not spectacle. And the final reveal of the tattoo works precisely because the issue has trained you to pay attention to the small details. It's visual storytelling at its most disciplined. No wasted space, no unnecessary noise. What makes Silent Interlude endure isn't the gimmick of silence, it's the confidence behind it. The issue trusts its characters, trusts its art, and trusts the reader. It shows how much story you can tell when everyone involved knows exactly what they're doing. And in a medium built on words, Silent Interlude stands as proof that sometimes silence isn't a limitation, it's the point. Thanks for watching, everyone. I didn't really grow up with G.I. Joe. It mostly passed me by growing up here in the west of Ireland. But in recent years, especially through the Energon Universe books, I've really come to appreciate these characters. I'd heard about Silent Interlude for years, so I finally sat down to read it, and honestly, I was surprised just how good it was. It's almost made me want to go back and read more of Larry Hama's work, because if this issue is anything to go by, there's clearly a lot there worth digging into. I know Hama eventually returned to this story and expanded on it, but this is one shot, so we're just focusing on the original. Let me know what you think of Silent Interlude in the comments, and remember, whether it's a single issue or a trade, there's always another page to turn. Keep reading, and I'll see you next time.